Hi, I'm Prateek Samantre, Marketing Manager at InstaSafe. First things first, I'd like to thank Ingram Micro for making InstaSafe's story heard across multiple geographies. And as I understand, the Ingram Micro One event is being graced by MSPs, cloud providers, system integrators, and partners all across the world. So I hope that at the end of my presentation, I would have been able to give you some greater clarity on how InstaSafe is revolutionizing and simplifying the security arena with its zero trust solutions. So I'll quickly move to the agenda of my presentation, and we'll be quickly going through the what's in house of the security challenges that organizations today are facing, and we'll be following it up with how InstaSafe is working towards solving these challenges. Of course, that will include a brief on our approach and architecture before we move on to the state of cybersecurity and the state of the organization, where we will be delving into more about our company, customers, accolades, and our vision for the future. So let's get started. While there may be different versions in this line of thought, we visualize the various factors driving cybersecurity today as a subset of five megatrends. Now, the first among them is the increasing frequency of cyber attacks, which has become all the more evident over the past 7 months as businesses struggle to secure their resources during the pandemic. Stringent regulatory policies brought in by government agencies has also forced companies across the world to have a relook at their security infrastructure. Now, remote work, of course, can safely be assumed to be the buzzword for many years to come. And we are in the midst of what may be termed as the world's largest work from home experiment. And in this scenario, it becomes imperative for companies to reorient their security policies in the light of such an unprecedented change. So this, coupled with the large-scale migration of applications and servers to the cloud and the increasing digital transformation, it indicates that we are undergoing a significant transition in the way in which security is approached. In short, we believe that the previous crown jewels of data and network have been dethroned, and there is a market shift towards identity and applications as the new crown jewels of digital assets, especially in the light of several changes that have taken place in recent times, which we will be discussing further. Security policies and security technologies focusing on identity and applications become the need of the hour. And when it comes to enterprise applications, we at InstaSafe tend to divide applications broadly into public and private applications. Now, private applications have no business being seen in the open internet, which is why we use the principles of zero trust security and the technology conception of a software defined perimeter to secure access to them. And on the public application front, we use a managed bug bounty program, Safe Hats, with an army of curated security researchers to check in enterprises' public applications for vulnerabilities and remediate them. So in this manner, we ensure that applications are secure both on the public and the private side. Now, of course, since I've started talking about our intents and purposes, we need to take a step back to know how and why organizations across the world are facing these challenges. Now, if we compare networks today with those from, say, 5 years ago, one observation tends to steal the show. The observation is that IT is becoming hybrid and more diversified. This is best represented by three numbers that I want to show to you. The first being that 94% of technology enterprises use a cloud service in one way or the other. Now, secondly, 83% of workloads will be on the cloud by the end of this year. And such organizations are leveraging almost five platforms on an average. Now, all of this, of course, begs the question, was a security setup actually ready for such a transcendental change? Hardly. Of course, we know that the transition from on prem to the cloud is real, but how have security setups adjusted to the transition? We know for a fact that the internet was built to connect things and not to block things. And using the TCP IP protocol, we built some wonderful things, and any device or any user could talk to anyone. In short, initially what we had was a system of unfettered trust. And of course, attackers obviously attacked this trust and started exploiting enterprise resources. And this forced enterprises to create what were termed as network perimeters, which were nothing but trusted areas on the inside as opposed to untrusted areas on the outside. So anything on the inside was assumed to be trusted by default, and if any employees or any third party contractors wish to access resources while being mobile, VPNs extended the network or services moved into the demilitarized zones for remote access. Of course, the issue with such solutions was the problem of unfettered trust being used for lateral movement again. Any hacker gaining access to a trusted user inside the network suddenly had access to almost everything in the network. And with the growing unreliability of VPNs, which also assigned more trust than necessary, the move to the cloud brought about even greater challenges. Now, what I show you is perhaps the most accurate representation of how organizations are functioning today, with applications and workloads moving to the cloud, and users becoming remote on an unprecedented scale, with proliferation in unmanaged devices as well. So in this entire scenario, the traditional conception of a network perimeter cannot hold good anymore, uh, since the perimeter has shifted from the network to the user. So, in effect, organizations are faced with diverse and fractured IT environments. And since these IT systems span multiple locations and multiple platforms, multiple tools and technologies, what we are left with are a set of complex security tools with no singular visibility. And all of this not only creates business friction on the security and the compliance side, but it's also replete with a lot of security gaps and vulnerabilities. And all of this uh, eventually leads to a fractured user experience as well. So this age-old connect first, authenticate second approach to security does not really hold good anymore. So in this entire situation, what is needed is an alignment of our security approach with what business and compliance teams really want: access and security from a user or identity perspective, and not from a data or a network perspective. So with that in context, our aim has always been to make cybersecurity simpler. Typically, a customer might be having an EOTM appliance or a switching or a routing infra in place, or a legacy firewall in place. So what we do is we start working with them with a unique consultative approach. What we do is initially we use an assessment methodology to understand where the gaps are occurring due to the use of multiple technologies. So, of course, our managed bug bounty program does help us in identifying these gaps and sort of helping us in drawing a baseline of the current architecture, especially vis-a-vis the zero trust model that we would be looking to implement. Only then do we actually start implementing our solutions. And of course, apart from leveraging safe hats for an audit of enterprise application vulnerabilities as a means of validating zero trust, the safe hats platform also serves as one of the fastest way to get access to a very diverse set of hacker skills. We have an available on-demand cybersecurity workforce of almost 5,000 plus hackers, uh, and they can go to be at any enterprise's disposal, and enterprises can get access to a very wide range of services, ranging from BAPT to bug bounties to responsible vulnerability disclosure programs. All of this at the click of a finger. Now, coming back to security for our private applications, the priority, as we discussed, it has shifted from networks to users to identity and applications. And organizations today have come to realize that the challenges associated with the connect first, authenticate second model are many. Now, the brilliance of a zero trust model is that it flips this concept over its head. So let's take a model that authenticates first and connects second. In short, it's a model that assumes that all actors are malicious by default, like a guilty until proven innocent dictum. So essentially, a zero trust model tends to work with the basic assumption that trust is not an entitlement, uh, uh, especially in a world where your workforce is constantly on the move and needs secure access to enterprise resources on their mobile devices. Uh, Network is no longer the control point. So since the security perimeter has shifted to the user, a software defined perimeter tends to act on the same and create individualized micro perimeters that rely on identity as the single control point. And this helps in connecting users, devices, and applications. So these micro perimeters are drawn keeping in mind not only the user context, but also the context of the access request. So as the user changes from device to device and goes from, say, uh, an office network to an unmanaged public network, so do the access policies. So thus we end up with a system of continuous risk and trust assessment for each individual access request. So zero trust policies, they are to be dynamic in nature, taking into account multiple sources of data, and continuous monitoring of data is to be done, especially for garnering new insights regarding any new vulnerabilities that may crop up. Uh, in addition, one of the key principles of a zero trust model is visibility. So the Kata model, which I discussed just now, and it's been adopted by InstaSafe as well, it requires continuous discovery, monitoring, assessment, and risk prioritization. All of this to get full visibility and context of the assets and risk, especially including adaptive risk and access protection. So, in essence, the software defined perimeter being used by InstaSafe uses distinctions between, uh, so it uses three very basic assumptions. The first is that the distinctions between inside and outside the network perimeter no longer stand true. And we believe that network locality cannot be a lone factor in determining trust. Secondly, we believe that malicious threats exist on the network at all times, and they may be both internal and external in nature. Thirdly, every user, device, and network and data, it has to be validated and authenticated before granting access. And there has to be a process of continuous discovery and monitoring and assessment of the network traffic for better identification of threat vectors. So without differentiating between inside and outside the network, what we rely on is a more nuanced approach in which we actually distribute trust between the user and the device. So for each contextual request that is made, we rely on the Kata methodology to grant or deny access. So for each request that is made, we verify multiple facets like who is the user, what is their profile, what is the device they are using, and what is the risk assessment of the device. What are the access policies to be granted for that user and for that device. So once the user is verified, they are granted access, but only to those applications that they are allowed to see. everything else is blackened. So what makes the SDP even more efficient is the use of the split plane architecture, wherein the control plane where the trust is established and the data plane where actual data is transferred are separate. So all of this actually ensures better security in the true sense. Now, the implementation and operationalization of a zero trust model obviously entails a variety of benefits and use cases. And via the Black Cloud approach or the SDP approach, you are not only effectively hiding applications from public view, but you are also successfully implementing a least privilege model. And all of this comes in handy when you open applications and services to collaborative ecosystem members, especially without the need of a VPN or a DMZ. So all of this in addition to a very simple InstaSafe zero trust dashboard, which we love to call as a single pane management console, through which an admin has all round access to all network traffic, all network activity, and he can see almost everything that's being done by any user. So which actually ensures that the age-old practice of the zero trust visibility is actually ensured. So with that in context, I'll move very quickly to a customer success story that I want to share to put into perspective the impact of zero trust on the way that companies are doing business. We have decided to put in on focus on a very on a singular case study, and the customer in question is one of the world's largest BPM firms with over 50,000 employees and businesses across the UK, India, Southeast Asia, and Africa. And they were already using our solutions on a much smaller scale when the pandemic struck, while sticking to legacy solutions for a majority of their network. And of course, when the pandemic struck, their legacy based solutions weren't able to scale up and uh, match up to the unprecedented increase in demand for remote access. And the InstaSafe team, on receiving their request for a scale up to 33,000 users in the shortest time possible, got to work. And our team worked on this massive exercise and completed deployment in just 5 days. Now, the agility with which our solutions were deployed across endpoints in various geographies under a loyal customer for the long run. Now, of course, InstaSafe has been disrupting a very large addressable market. The SDP market alone is witnessing very unprecedented growth at a CAGR of almost 37%, which has, of course, been sped up further by the pandemic. Now, complementarily, our growth at InstaSafe has been phenomenal as well, which I will be discussing in the next slide. Uh, of course, one of our notable achievements include recognition by both Gartner and Forrester as a representative vendor for Zero Trust Network Access, as well as a managed bug bounty program vendor. Uh, that said, I'd like to now move to our go-to-market model. We rely on a subscription-based SaaS model, which has worked out pretty well for us. One of our major breakthroughs, of course, on the channel front has been the signing of a global distribution agreement with Ingram. And as a result of this, we hope to be able to spread our wings and actually reflect our side of the zero trust story to companies worldwide. So basis our GTM, we have registered very, very strong figures with a 3-year average growth of 337%. And our customer base has also grown dramatically over this period, leading Deloitte to recognize us among the fastest growing companies of India and Asia for 2 years in a row. Our growth trajectory has been steep, and this has led us to an increasing global footprint, over 30 countries worldwide, spread across 6 continents. And this is just a snapshot of our customer base. As you can see, we cater to some of the biggest Fortune 2000 companies and some real big Asian and South Asian giants belonging to a variety of industries. And of course, all of this has been possible with the guidance of a very strong leadership profile at our vanguard, with a combined experience of almost 75 plus man years in companies like Nortel, Wipro, Blue Code Systems, and Cyberome. We are also backed by a very, very strong advisory team, especially Ms. Vanita Kolipillai, Mr. Louis Cure, and Mr. Hemal Patel. And we hope that basis our growth story and our leadership and uh, the very strength of our products, we are actually able to uh, we will be actually able to cater to the security needs of a large number of companies and help you in securing your zero trust journey. uh, Thank you. That will be all from my side.